Hello and good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about Rahab. Have you ever studied Rahab? Doesn't matter if you have or if you haven't, but we're going to talk about her today. But before we get started in the lesson, I want to cover three words. We're going to talk about these three words, and then we're going to talk about Rahab and how these words pertain to Rahab's story. We're going to talk about hospitality. We're going to talk about protector, and we're going to talk about faith. So let's get into it. Hospitality. Have you really thought about what you do when someone comes to your home, when you know that they're coming to your home for a visit, maybe an overnight stay, maybe a week stay? What are some of the things that you make sure you do? Think about it. We clean our home. We try to freshen up the pillows. We put fresh towels out for our guests, maybe a clean bar of soap. We do all the things that we need to do in order to present ourselves as welcoming. We clean up that house and we get all that dust taken care of. We even go and buy groceries because we have already asked, what do you like to eat? So that we can accommodate our guests, right? Hospitality is about making certain that people are welcome and making sure that you are doing the things that require you to be open, welcoming, inviting. So that's hospitality. The idea is to make your guests feel as comfortable as possible, right? What else do you do? When they come, you make certain that they know where things are. You make sure that you have gone ahead of them and made some provisions. As you know, one of the most cited passages dealing with welcoming strangers comes from Matthew 25, 35 through 40. Let me read that to you. For I was hungry, and yea, you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and yea, you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and you gave and came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when say we that you were hungry? And when did I feed you? And when were you thirsty and I gave you a drink? Do you know the answer to that? He replied, when I was a stranger and you took me in and I was naked and I was clothed, or when you saw me and I was sick or in prison and you came unto me. He answered to them, verily I say unto you, insomuch as you have done it unto one of the least of them, you have done it unto me. That's what it means to be hospitable. To strangers, to the least, the lost, the lonely, the laughed at, and the often left behind. So being hospitable to strangers is really something more than a statement about being hospitable to kinfolk or being hospitable to your friends or somebody you know and you love, but being hospitable to strangers. Keep that in mind as we move along in this program and we talk about Rahab. The next word we want to talk about is protector. You'll see when we get into the story why protector is a word that we want to talk about before we get into the lesson. It's a person or a thing that protects someone or something. A protector. If you refer to someone as a protector, you mean that they protect you from what? Being harmed, perhaps. Being talked about, being ridiculed. A protector. Someone who's going to be there, step in and help you stay safe. Keep that in mind as we go along in this study today. Protector could mean defender, could be a champion for you. It could also mean a guardian. In Psalm 121 and 5, the Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade, thy right hand. In other words, the Lord is going to be there for you. He's going to go before you. He's going to accommodate for you. He's going to always be there, having your back, having your front, having your sides, a protector. David, in this passage, is rejoicing in the fact that God is watching over him. As David worked to fulfill God's promises and God's will, God never abandoned David. That's what a protector is about. A protector. Have you ever had an opportunity to protect someone, to keep them from harm's way? Have you ever fought for your family members and thought to yourself, whatever it takes for me to protect them from any hurt, harm, or danger, that's what I'm here for. I am their protector. What about being a parent? I could tell you I have 2 sons, and as they were growing up, they meant the world to me. Oh, well, now they still mean the world to me. But I'm just saying, when they were babies, I was like a mama bear. You could not have done anything to those boys that you would not have done to me. I was not going to let it happen. I was their protector. And I feel the same way when I married my husband. He's a protector. I feel very comfortable going to sleep at night because I can imagine what it would feel like if you don't have that protector, someone that can go before you and do the things, lay out the things before you to make sure you're comfortable and make sure you're safe. I count on my husband to go throughout the house, make sure the doors are locked. I figure that's his job because I never do it, but I assume he's doing it. I've been safe so far. A protector, someone who knows that they want you, a family member, a loved one, to be safe and out of harm's way. What would you do to keep your family safe? Would you make some deals? Would you go before them and say, hey, if you do this, then I'll do this. But I want you in every ounce of this word of protection, make sure you don't harm my family. Protector. Elohim Shari. I believe that's how you pronounce that Greek word. Elohim Shamri. I'm going to say that's correct. It is the Hebrew, I said Greek, but it's the Hebrew translation for God is my protector. If you can't remember that word, and I can't half pronounce it myself, the truth is just know that God is your protector. But God is not the only one that's protecting you. Imagine having friends pray for you, family members to look out for you, and to strike deals and make certain that provisions are made so that you are kept safe. That's what a protector is. So keep that in mind as we talk further about Rahab, a protector. Now let's talk about faith. Of course, we know all about faith. We know that faith is the hope and the prayer and the glimpse of what it takes to understand something, to believe in something. Faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. We've heard that time and time again. But what really does it mean to have faith? Belief in something or someone so much that you will not compromise or veer away from that someone. Faith. In this story, you will learn that Rahab was rewarded for her faith and her courage. We're going to talk more about faith, and she eventually, as the story is told, marries an Israelite. And she becomes one with her ancestors. In fact, she is in the lineage of Jesus the Christ because of her faithfulness. Faithfulness. Rahab reminds us that we too have value in God's eye. When I talk to you about Rahab and her story, you're going to wonder, why did God put so much credence into protecting her or rewarding her? Look at her background. Look at her story. But Rahab's story is one of excitement and hope, because Rahab was rewarded for being such a faithful person. And we now are going to just transition into the story. Let me read a little bit about the discovery of Rahab, found in Joshua 2, 1 through 21, and 6, 22 through 25. We're going to read just a little bit about it. Then we're going to discuss it. Then Joshua, son of Nun, sent 2 men secretly from Shittim as spies, saying, "Go, view the land, especially Jericho." So they went and entered the house of a prostitute. See, that's what I was talking about. That's Rahab's backstory. Let's pause right there and understand that word, prostitute. That's what she was. But yet, I told you earlier that God rewarded her faith. That gives us hope that he can reward us, regardless of our background. But let's go a little further. Her name was Rahab, and they spent the night there. The king of Jericho was told, "Some Israelites have come here tonight to search out the land." Then the king of Jericho sent others to Rahab. "Bring out the men who have come to you, who entered your home, for they have come only to search out the whole land." But the woman took the 2 men and hid them. Then she said, "True, the men came to me, but I did not know where they came from. And when it was time to close the gate at dark, the men went out. Where the men went, I don't know. Pursue them quickly, for you can overtake them." She had, however, brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax that she had laid out on the roof. Hospitality. She went before them and laid out this in preparation of their coming. So the men pursued them on the way to the Jordan as far as the fords. As soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. Before they went to sleep, she came up to them on the roof and said to them, "I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that dread of you have fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt in fear before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt." See, she's having faith in this story and understanding really the power of God. "And what you did to go to kings of the Amorites that were beyond the Jordan, to Shiloh and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. As soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no courage left in any of us because of you. The Lord your God is indeed a God in heaven above and on earth below. Now then, since I have dealt kindly with you," here it comes, this protector. "Now then, since I have dealt with you kindly, swear to me by the Lord that you in turn will deal kindly with my family. Give me a sign of good faith that you will spare my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and deliver our lives from death." The men said to her, "Our life for yourself? If you do not tell this business of ours, if you don't give us up, if you don't sell us out, then we will deal kindly and faithfully with you when the Lord gives us the land." Then she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the outer side of the city wall, and she resided within the wall herself, inside itself. She said to them, "Go toward the hill, the country, so that the pursuers may not come upon you. So she knew she sent the pursuers one way, and she's trying to direct these men, now that she struck this deal with them to protect her family, to go in an opposite direction so that they can be safe, because she had an ultimate goal of protecting her family. We will be released from this oath. Okay, she said, hide yourselves there for 3 days until the pursuers have returned. Then afterward, you may go your way. The men said to her, we will be released from this oath that you have made us swear to you if we invade the land and you do not tie the crimson cord in the window through which you let us down. And you do not gather into your house your father and mother, your brothers, and all your family. If any of you go out of the doors of your house into the street, they shall be responsible. But if a hand is laid upon any who are with you in your house, we shall bear the responsibility for their death. But if you tell this business of ours, then we shall be released from this oath. Now, you have struck a deal with us. You have said, if we do this, then you expect us to do this in protecting your family. So we're saying to you, keep your end of the bargain or the bet's off. She said, according to your words, so be it. She sent them away and they departed. Then she tied the crimson cord in the window. Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out the land, go into the prostitute's house and bring the woman out of it and all who belong to her. So the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, along with her father, her mother, her brothers, and all who belonged to her. They brought all her kindred out and set them outside the camp of Israel. They burned down the city and everything in it. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of Israel, a house of the Lord. But Rahab, the prostitute, with her family and all who belonged to her, Joshua spared them. Her family has lived in Israel ever since. For she hid the messengers who Joshua sent to spy on Jericho. Now, what does this lesson tell us? We talked about it. We talked about being a protector, having faith, and we talked about hospitality. That's all wrapped up in this one little story of Rahab. Again, Rahab was a prostitute. We all know what that means. You know, when you think about teaching Rahab to children, you have to be very careful in how you couch that. And they have to understand, what that trouble is or what that prostitute might be. But you tell the story in the terms of how God rewarded her faithfulness. So the prostitute, it is difficult to talk about sex. We know it is, especially to little children when you're trying to teach Rahab, especially in the church. But it is important to name when sex becomes degrading and dehumanizing. The church can be a safe place to talk about sex, and it could be forced issues that we have to deal with because that's reality in the world today. But it's inappropriate in many congregations, but there's real issues of sex trafficking that's affecting women and children. And if we don't talk about it in the church, then where can we really talk about it? Sex trafficking is not only a third world country problem. It happens here, right here in our land, right here in Louisville, Kentucky. In fact, they tell us that around Derby time, that's when it picks up. People from everywhere are coming into Louisville, Kentucky, and on the outskirts into these various hotels. They're set up for prostitution rings. We have to talk about this. It is a real problem. But the story of Rahab does not offer any quick and easy solution, but it does open the door for people of faith to discuss and come alongside groups that are solving some of these wicked problems that we're experiencing today. That was Rahab's story then, but that Rahab story turned into something quite beautiful. Quite beautiful. It does not offer a quick and easy solution, but it does open the doors again, like I said earlier, for us to talk about some of the wicked deeds that are going on, but how you can too be rewarded for your faithfulness, and how God looks at our actions and the faith that we have in Him to do exactly what He says He's going to do. And if we hold on to that faith, God will reward us. That is really the story of Rahab. I enjoy reading about Rahab because it does offer so many opportunities for so many various conversations. It's always challenging to move beyond your past, especially when it comes to religious communities. A lot of people in the church kind of hold you accountable and they never forget your past. They keep throwing it up, not only in the church, but just out in the streets, in the community. People sometimes won't forgive you. They heard about something you did. That's way in your past. You've changed. You have changed your life around. You're a pillar in the community, but yet some people will not allow you to forget from whence you came and some of the errors and the wicked ways that you used to have. But guess what? God sees us for who we are. God is a forgiving God. All you have to do is have faith and understand that He is there for us. And all He wants us to do is to understand the importance of having faith. Rahab was labeled a prostitute. Was she particularly brazen and seductive? Did she lead the men into temptation? Well, you have to look at what the past was as far as how she lived her life. But Rahab is named in Hebrew 1, along with a long list of other faithful people like King David. However, it's interesting. Check this out. Women, David, when you think about David's name, what are the adjectives that you think about? Do you think about murderer? Do you think about adulterer? Perhaps those two things can come up when you talk about David, but generally it's King David. Generally, he's not labeled with those negative connotations. But Rahab, when you hear Rahab, you usually just immediately associate her with being a prostitute. Name calling is a sign that the church and the Christian tradition has found it difficult to forgive. Sometimes we need to do better at forgiving and forgetting. That's it right there. Forgiving is one thing, but forgetting and taking people for where they are and understanding that people change, especially in the church. We have to do a better job at that. God spared Rahab her life and her family's life because of her faithfulness. So that shows us that God rewards us for faithfulness. He doesn't hold us in the grudges that all people in society hold against us. God is an awesome God, and He sees us. He understands us, and He wants us to see Him and understand Him. Again, Rahab was absolutely rewarded for her faithfulness. There's a couple of questions for us to address. But before we do that, let's do a deep dive more so into the story of Rahab. Hospitality, again, is a key theme in the history of Rahab. Rahab offers radical hospitality as seen in the act by risking her life. She did. She risked her life for her family because of her faithfulness. Artist Laura Pittman depicts Rahab holding a red cord, which she lowered to ensure that the safety of her family after supplying the Israelites spies enough information to achieve victory in Jericho. Rahab, who was a foreigner, reveals God's radical love through her actions. Lynn Japinga names 3 areas we can learn from the story of Rahab. Let's discuss each one using the questions as a guide. Discussion 1. Have you ever been given a negative label? Name calling. What are some things that people have called you? You know, growing up, have you ever been walking into a house and after coming from outside playing, and your parents look at you and go, "Pull up your pants. Get that dirt off your face. Wash your feet before you walk in here. You are just so dirty. Oh, you smell." Those are considered some name-calling ventures that parents don't even think about that they're doing to that child. And then when the child goes to school, sometimes they're called dumb, they're called stupid, they're called ignorant, they're called hard to learn. Sometimes teachers even label our children. Name-calling is very harsh. But the good news is that God calls us different names. Beloved, compassionate, generous, courageous, his children. So we have to focus on those things that make us feel proud and minimize those name-calling things. People could continue to call Rahab a prostitute, but Rahab knew her faithfulness was rewarded because of what she did. That's what people should judge us on, our actions. You know, you've heard the term, actions speak louder than words. That's exactly what God looks at. He looks at our actions. Radical hospitality, as we talked about earlier on, is a gift that Rahab often offers us. The radical hospitality. She makes room for strangers. We talked about that. And because she made room for strangers and she trusted in God, she knew in her heart that her family was going to be okay. That's how we have to look at hospitality for others that we care about. That's how we have to look at our lives when we are being slandered and people are talking about us. We have to remember that God sees us. He believes in us. And all we have to do is show by our actions that we believe in him and we have faith that he will do exactly what he says he's going to do. I have another question for you. In what ways might Christians be called to radical hospitality and steadfast love? Think on that. Think about how we can be called to have that radical love and that faith for God. We're going to wrap it up here, but I've had a wonderful time with you. We have so much to cover, the story of Rahab. Come Sunday, if you will, and we're going to talk some more about Rahab. If you need us at any time between now and then, call the church at 502-583-6789 or email us at newstart@ssclive.org. It is so wonderful being with you. I enjoy being with you, and I love you with the love of the Lord. Take care. I'll see you soon.